from Jeff Martin. And dear old Jeff says, our very dear friend Lorraine O'Connell has a birthday on Sunday. It'd be great if you could play something for her. What do you say, hello, she is? Reminds me of best wishes from me and everybody in the KBPS. Good stuff. Well done. Okay, well done. Now, as well as that, you have this slide round the small wooden items, yes?
Yeah, well, it can be big as well.
Right, okay, tell us about it.
Well, Vinny manufactures products with layers and cutter, and you can do big square buttons, we do a lot of mirrors, we do chocolate boards and plaques and bottle openers,
free.
If I can't have you.
Yes, yes indeed. That's one. The others were, hello stranger, I can't get you out of my mind. Well then, Julie, 24 points.
Oh, better than last time.
When were you on last?
December 2015.
Alright, so just over 2 years. And what did you score then?
16.
Done a lot better.
Yeah.
24 points. Well done.
I've been trying to practice more since then.
Well, it's worked. It's paid off. Well done. Okay, Julie, 24 points. That's a good score. We'll find out whether it's good enough after we hear from Philip Scott, who follows this. you, Joseph?
Got Mum driving, Dad, and my sister Zara.
And why are you heading to Edinburgh? Or is it the cheese festival, which we mentioned, or might it be the rugby?
It is the rugby.
And are you English supporters? Are you Scottish supporters? Or do you not, just pleasingly neutral?
Well, we have kind of split the car, so Mum and I are Scotland, and Dad and my sister are England.
Well, okay. How does that work out? How come you're 50-50?
Well,
Specifically what about the way they wanted to produce interviews and so forth?
Well, as I recall, the producer said, we're looking for people who want to talk about the policy implications about what happened in terms of, she didn't mention guns, but, in terms of the policy implications for preventing future mass shootings. And if you know folks who want to talk about that, we'd like to speak to those people.
Very interesting. Ariana and Mr. Klein, thank you so much for joining us. Our prayers continue to be with the people of Parkland. You guys are incredible. You're amazing yesterday. Thank you so much. Thank you.
to not have that up, all those different things, and you say, if someone qualifies for 60% of all those things, then maybe they don't get a gun.
Yeah.
Maybe you make him wait a few years before he's able to purchase a weapon like that at that age. So obviously we need gun control, but it shouldn't be taking guns away from people or not manufacturing the AR-15. We can't even ban bump stocks after Vegas, but we should increase background checks and make sure the information is shared appropriately.
I think the worry is that whenever gun control comes up, the law-abiding gun owner thinks it's about them, and the idea is to switch it. So you're saying, no, it's almost like stop and frisk or community policing, but applying to this.
I think so, and I actually think that it's not necessarily a congressional move here, because the states are the policy innovators and the incubators, and I would think that this is mostly a states' rights issue. So it's not like you would have to wait for Congress and D.C. to actually move forward on something like gun violence restraining orders or these red flag laws. You could actually do that in Tallahassee, and that could happen in Florida, or you might do it in another state, and that's an experiment. That's where all the experiments happen in the states, and then you can figure out a way if you want to move it forward. Sometimes the federal government will do things like tying transportation funds in order to get a state to comply with something like the drinking age or something like that. But if this were to work in a certain place, if you try it out somewhere, and you have somebody like the mother from Connecticut and Sandy Hook, she tried to get help. She didn't know where to go. There's also a real concern about cuts to Medicaid, which is where a lot of people get their mental health help if they're going to get any. I hadn't heard the autism diagnosis, and I think that I don't know enough about it, and I think that there's a tendency to then extrapolate that into others. But I would say this on the communication standpoint: the kids staying in this story makes it very hard for the media to ignore it. So they know that, and I think they've been pretty smart. They're working together. They're using their social networks in order to gather, not just in Tallahassee. They're calling for a march on March 24th. That sounds weird. March 24th. And the more they stay in this story, it will be harder for people to ignore. But I don't necessarily think that this is just a congressional issue. I think that you can get more done faster at the state level.
Yeah, the thing is, I think the media doesn't have to be. This is a highly visual protest, especially if it's going to be nationwide and the Women's March is getting behind it, which is then going to raise suspicions that it's more of a political event if the Women's March and a liberal one. And I think that's an error. That's an error, and also an error to continually talk about repealing the Second Amendment, because that's never going to happen. But you hear that. I think if the media maybe focused on why he wasn't placed in the hospital, how did the FBI drop the ball, as well as these protests.
Right, but you want to make sure that this isn't going to be, a direct, full-on assault on the Second Amendment and a gun grab, because then that's, it's right, but given the political differences and ideological differences, to try to use this as a vehicle to try to confiscate guns. There's situations where somebody can just make a complaint against the neighbor or something like that, and then you have to be very careful in terms of the guidelines.
It'll be like, once you get on the list, what's the adjudication in order to get off of it? And that will be hard. But again, I think that one of the states could start this.
And it's simple. If it's a simple, tag, that means the bar is lower. And it's about these people. It's about the guy that you know. It's like nobody knows what to do with the problem.
Kimberly mentioned the state agency that went and visited this guy after he was posting pictures on social media of him cutting himself and saying he wanted to do violence and buy a gun. He was wearing long sleeves at the time, and the reason they didn't involuntarily commit him was because they never even checked and looked at his sleeves. Hey, dude, pull your sleeves up. It's a really pathetic visit by the state agency, I think.
That's what happens. It's not thorough, and they're pressed, and they have so many cases, and they go in and they do a rush. I mean, I won't even tell you about a case that I know. I mean, anyway, they didn't even check this little girl who had been beaten, and her scalp was duct taped back on, and they left her in the house.
Juan, you brought up vets and the problems that they have. There's a positive argument maybe on how to use vets. This is from Tyrus, who's a co-host on my show, brought up this as a practical solution.
When 9/11 happened, the planes hit the towers, airports were changed forever. We got the TSA. Our children are getting hit. It's time to change the schools forever. And there's a population out there, and I checked, they didn't have the new stats out out, but last year's stats was 4.3% unemployment for returning veterans in this country. That's 435,000 trained men who have eyes and ears. We need to have them at the schools.
Is that a good, I mean, I like it. I think it's a great idea. What do you think, Juan?
Well, I know the criticism is that if you police the schools so intensely, then everything that a young person does becomes a criminal act rather than a teenager acting out, because all of a sudden there's a cop there and now there's a criminal record. And so essentially you are, institutionalizing the school in a way that I don't think schools are intended. Kids are
But if I understand what Tyrus is saying, is they wouldn't be there in order to have disciplinary action oversight. They would just be there to protect.
Well, that'd be ideal.
Different.
If what happens is if you have police there, then I think the school authorities.
The vets wouldn't be police.
But I think let me just say the bigger point to me is the one that you were talking about earlier, which is basically people get locked into their political boxes right here, and then people will say you're coming for my guns. Now, to my mind, when I think about the NRA and its role here, I don't see how you get away from it because they are so heavily politicized and they put so many dollars into Republican candidates. They back Republicans.
I think the NRA influence is a little overrated because unions and Planned Parenthood have a lot more money. But if any president could do something on this issue, I think Donald Trump could. He's very supportive of this guy, and if he wants to give a little on background checks, I think the country would be open to it.
Yeah, absolutely. The question is, would his right wing be open to it? Would the NRA be open to it? Because I think that so many, in the case of guns, are single issue votes, and that's the only issue. They see the whole world through that prism and are easily threatened. And I think that if Trump, if others of the NRA would finally say, listen, here's a reasonable step that we can get behind, it would make a huge difference. Because remember, we didn't get bump stocks. We haven't had any added steps in terms of the mental illness issue that Greg's talking about today. Medicare, as Dana was talking about, less opportunities for coverage for mental health issues. To me, this is right staring us in the face. We don't have to wonder about it.
Yeah, just that we haven't really had good practical solutions from the loudest voices. When you even look at what the ACLU came out against the Obama bill because it was a defensive move. It was a casting a wide net on some people who can't fill out their Social Security benefits because of a disability. This crowd is not the type of crowd that shoots up schools. So anyway, President.
Vince Spiro is the editor-in-chief of the Daily Wire.
year off. I'm going to be working with this organization I'm a part of, Represent Us, trying to get young people engaged politically.